Hey guys, welcome back to I Was Thinking. I'm Macy.
And I am Izuku Midoriya. Go beyond plus ultra. I didn't tell you I was doing that. I'm sorry. I've been rewatching and catching up on My Hero Academia, so it was my head.
I need to so badly.
It's so good.
I have like 3 My Hero Academia shirts, and I wear them all the time because they're kind of oversized and really comfortable. And every time I go out of the house, someone compliments me on those shirts, and they'll ask me like questions that I don't know because I'm not caught up.
Isn't that always embarrassing?
Yes, I'm like, Yeah,
I had to rewatch it because I forgot a lot. So I started from the beginning. So I started from season 1, and they're on season 5 now. I didn't finish season 5. I'm on I got busy, so I'm on episode 1 or 2 because on Hulu, season 1 to 4 is all dub, and I usually watch the dub for the more popular ones, but 5 is sub, so I've been too busy. But I'm gonna watch it. But it's good.
And, the girl at Target that checked me out, she's like, "Have you seen the movies?" And I'm like,
"We did.
I saw the first one.
We saw the first one. Remember we went together?
Yeah, we went to the theater and saw it. But I don't think I've seen the second one unless I saw it and forgot about it.
I know for a fact I did not see the second one, so...
Okay. Because, All Might going to, the city and seeing his friend, is that the first one?
That's the first one. That's the one me and you went to. And I was rewatching it, and it made me think of when we went to the theater, because there's a scene, when they all meet each other again at the island, and when they introduce the characters, I remember when people would, cheer for their favorite one. I was like, God, a lot of people really like Bakugo. I hate him, but I have a love-hate relationship with Bakugo, okay?
Right.
Why is he so angry?
I don't know. Maybe they'll get more, as it goes on. I don't even really remember where I stopped watching. But I gotta go. I'm gonna start from the beginning again because I can't remember where I stopped.
It helped me because even as I'm caught up, I still don't understand. I don't understand why he's so angry. I don't understand. You know, we can get into that later. Maybe we'll talk about My Hero Academia, but that's not what we're talking about today.
Maybe we should do an episode about it.
We should. But Macy, what are we talking about today? We're actually doing another movie review. Yay!
Yay! So we're talking about Howl's Moving Castle, which is my favorite movie of all time. I don't really know why I like it so much, but I own it. I own a set of the Studio Ghibli films, and I own it by itself too. So I have 2 copies of this movie, and I've watched it probably at least 10 times, I would say. And I watched it again last night because we were doing this and I wanted it fresh in my brain.
Disclaimer before you start, I am not one of those children who watched a lot of Studio Ghibli's movies growing up. I also had a very strict mother, who was very, at the time, I'll say, quote unquote, Christian. So anything that had to do with any slightly of the supernatural, I was not allowed to watch. Yeah, I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah, you weren't even allowed to watch Wizards of Waverly Place,
exactly.
I remember.
So just to show you, or you can keep in mind, if I wasn't allowed to watch that, I wasn't allowed to do a lot of stuff. So I was a little behind.
Right. I did not watch these as a child. I only watched them after I got into anime, which was my freshman year of high school. So I'm not an OG fan, but I do like this movie in particular.
The only Studio Ghibli film I know we watched as kids because they showed it to us in the after school program in elementary school was Spirited Away. That is a little creepy though. I'm surprised
that's not the one I would have picked to show a bunch of children if I was going to choose one.
I need to rewatch it though to see how I feel about it as an adult.
Right. I would say my second favorite one is Kiki's Delivery Service, and that one's much more suitable for children, I think. But
yeah, I remember, I was why did they show us this? That's fifth, kindergarten to 5th graders.
Right. Yeah, but basically, I think we've talked about it in the past, how we both really like tattoos. The second tattoo I want to get is a little image of Calcifer, which we'll talk about him later, but he's a little fire demon in the movie.
Yes, and remember that music video kind of going to K-pop a little bit of that one singer Kang Daniel and this one song I like.
Yeah.
Now I understand when you were like, I like that one guy's tattoo. I didn't realize until I watched the movie that was Calcifer. Not Kang Daniel, the singer that's featured in the song I really like called Movie.
Mm-hmm. But I have this image that I found, I think I found it on Pinterest or something, but it's like her holding him. So it's like her hands and Calcifer, and there's like flowers behind it. And then the saying, a heart is a heavy burden, which is a line from the movie. So that's the intention I have when I get my second tattoo. When that'll happen, I don't know. But that's how much I like it as just a reference. I'm willing to tattoo it on my body.
Because I need to get mine fixed. I don't think I ever talked about it on the podcast. I don't think I talked about it on the We Are Back episode. I did end up getting a tattoo on my birthday. But things happen, so I need to get another one in replace of it. And by I mean is, for some reason, my weirdly body healed. Because I didn't know tattoos like kind of peel when they're healing. So like on day 4, I took a shower, I got out, I was pat drying it, and all of a sudden part of it came off. So
I don't think that's supposed to happen, because mine peeled too. And I had to go get mine touched up because like one little spot, the ink came off, and it like was like just, it wasn't there anymore. So I had to go have it filled in. But your like entire moon fell off.
No, not the moon, the Taurus symbol. I had a really cute tattoo. It was like of a crescent moon, and I had the Taurus symbol sitting inside the moon. Now it's just a crescent moon that you still can barely even see now that it's all healed up. I mean, I also still have darker skin, so I would like to find a place that can do like more color on my type of skin. I have to do more research on that, which is kind of hard to do, but yeah, I think I'm just gonna get like a bunch of roses to cover it up because I like roses. So yeah, I'm still sad about it though because it's on my arm, but like
it was kind of expensive too. So like tattoos aren't cheap,
No, they're not. I mean, I didn't pay for it. It was a birthday gift for my dad. Still, so yeah, I know.
But for it if you're going to have to go cover it up anyway, that sucks.
Yeah, I didn't want to go back and have him replace it. I'm like, let me just go to a different person and let me just get something different. I think I still want that same tattoo, but I might just get it like on my ankle later on. So yeah. So guys, I did fulfill my dream of getting a tattoo, but it wasn't how I thought it was going to be.
Right? At least it didn't hurt that bad.
No, I felt nothing. It just felt like tingling, and I was like, oh, this is kind of relaxing.
Yeah, people freak you out. And I don't know if, like, maybe just women in general, we have a stronger, like, pain tolerance. But
that's because we have to carry these babies.
Right? Yeah, I got mine in a really sensitive place right on my wrist over veins, and I didn't think it hurt that bad. So maybe we're crazy, but
maybe. I mean, I don't know if I'd be able to get, I don't know. My vein on my wrist kind of pops out more than yours do, I think. I have a little wrist. So
yeah, I mean, I felt him going over my vein, like it popped back and forth.
Yeah. So I don't know. But I definitely want the one on my arm to get fixed. So
well, anyway. Yeah. Tangent about tattoos.
Sorry. I was going to go to a further tangent, but let's get on to the movie. No one wants to.
Right. So I didn't really know how you wanted to format this, but I figured what I'll do is I have some basic facts that I'm going to shoot out real quick. And then I figured I would just kind of talk us through the plot of the movie. And you can kind of point out things and give your opinion on what you felt like was going on and if you liked it or whether or not at the end.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll, like we did, or like what I did with Nafis when we did our first movie review. She kind of did the same thing. We talked about plot holes we kind of found in the movie or like theories. Well, it wasn't anime though. It was like a different type of movie than we're talking about now. So it's going to be different things we talk about, but then initially the same. And then we rated it at the end if we liked it or not. And like if we had any problems, it goes into why we rated it a certain way.
Okay. So anyway, I'll start out with some of the facts. So this movie was released in 2004.
Which doesn't look like it.
Yeah. It was written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki, animated by Studio Ghibli. So Miyazaki is like kind of like the founder of Studio Ghibli, and he pretty much writes and directs all of the movies. So it is loosely based on the film Howl's Moving Castle by British author Diane Wayne Jones. Now,
film or book?
Oh, sorry, book. Did I say film?
You did say film. I was like, wait, we're talking about the film, but I know it's a book.
I wrote down film is loosely based on novel.
Okay, yeah, it's what that book and the author, they're not like Japanese or anything, is it? The book? Is it
No.
like a English? Like,
I have not read the book yet. I really want to read it. It was published in 1986, and the author is British, so I do believe it is in English. But
Okay.
it's quite different
Right.
from what I've heard. I've read some theories on both, like, comparisons between the book and the movie, and it's really different. So, like, it goes into, like, their lives, and they have, like, children, and so it's pretty...
oh, it goes deeper than that.
it's
Okay.
more in depth, yeah.
Right.
And then, so Miyazaki wrote and directed it, and then it was produced by Toshi Suzuki. So they're, like, the main people that worked on it. That's all I really have for, like, facts. But, so I guess we'll start to get into the plot of the movie. So the movie follows...
Real quick, because I just thought the, like, star list as far as the English voice actors was pretty interesting. I was like, wow, I didn't realize so many famous people were on this movie. Like, right. Christian Bale, Billy, what's his name? Hang on, I'm about to look it up real quick because I cannot remember. But I was...
Yeah. I was watching it last night, and my mom was watching it too, and she actually recognized Casper'S Voice, and she's like, is that...
Yeah!
Bill something? Like, she said his name, and I'm forgetting it now.
Billy Crystal.
Billy Crystal,
because he also voices Mike from Monsters, Inc. Mike Wazowski.
Oh,
yeah.
Really? Mike Wazowski.
That's how I recognize his voice. And then I would have never thought Howl was Christian Bale. I don't know why his voice sounds different. Maybe because, well, I don't want to say because he was younger. Maybe I could play in it, though.
Yeah, good. Your voice changes as you get older.
Yeah, and then little Markle was Josh Hutcherson. I saw that name. I was like, Josh Hutcherson? Not my white boy. That's one of my top 3 white boys. If anything happens to them or if they say something idiotic, I don't know what I'm going to do with Tim, Logan Learman, and Dylan O'Brien. If they ever disappoint me, I just give up. I pretty much just give up. Now, I hope I didn't put anything in the universe, but yeah, Josh Hutcherson, that's been my man's forever.
Yeah, no, it's got a pretty good cast of people. I have watched it in Japanese as well, and it's quite good, but I usually watch it in English. So
okay, because I watched this through HBO Max, and they only had the English version. They didn't have the Japanese version, which I was wondering if there was, but I thought Studio Ghibli was, a Japanese animation company, so that's why I was like, there has to be one. It's just not on HBO Max.
Yeah, it was originally released in Japanese. So yeah. And then they because if you pay attention closely, it's not dubbed perfectly, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes in anime, like the English, it's kind of off.
They've gotten better at it, but like, especially back then, like in the early 90s and early 2000s, like you could tell it was really obvious.
Right. Oh, another fact that I meant to mention was a reason that I love these films so much is they're all hand-drawn animation.
Oh, are they?
Yes. So
it looks so timeless.
Yeah.
No, but I was saying is like what I appreciate about Studio Ghibli is like even when I was watching this, I'm like I keep forgetting this was made in 2004 because it looks like it could have been made now. Like all their films back then just look so drawn really well, and like the animation so realistic almost. Just looks timeless.
Right. And I think that is a big I feel like there might be a new movie out that wasn't done that way, like one of their more recent ones, but all the original and like the collection that I have were all hand drawn. So if the newer one's animated differently, don't quote me on that. But
has Studio Ghibli made a movie since like the last one I remember is like 2008, and it was Ponyo. I'm sure there's been more that's come out after that, and I'm just not aware of. But that's the only quote unquote recent.
I would have to Google it, but I know that like I think I own another one of the movies, and I'm forgetting now. But there have been, like, I think there's one called, like, Girl Next Door or something. But there have been at least a couple that have come out since that aren't a part of, like, the original collection. So, and I hear there's a new one in the works now. So I don't remember what it was going to be called. But
gotcha.
But I know for a fact that all the original ones were hand-drawn animation. And that was, like, a big goal of Miyazaki's is to keep it that way. So hopefully it's still that way, but I'm not going to...
Is he still around? Is he alive?
He is still alive, and he's still involved. He took some time off, and they thought he was going to retire for a while, but he did come back. I don't know how recently, but he is still involved.
Okay.
So
that's pretty cool, actually.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully it's still the original, but I can understand why technology may have taken over at this point.
Technology, time, and money.
Right?
Because, especially if, I don't know if they're owned by, a big corporation or, their sponsorships. You know how, you have sponsorships and they're trying to rush you to get these things put out and done no matter how. Yeah. So if it also has to deal with, time and money, then I can understand why they don't do it anymore. That's my own criticism about, movies in general when it comes to making stuff, but we're not here to talk about that right now.
Right. Well, that's how you grow, but I like the feel, all the movies look so cohesive because of that style, where like Disney, for example, started off as a hand-drawn animation company, and now we have Frozen, which is the super CGI, they almost look too real. So I like that, you can tell that it's all been done by the same people, and it's very cohesive and it looks beautiful. So why not?
Right.
So anyway, I guess we'll start with, I'm just going to kind of talk about the plot and you just stop me whenever you have something that you want to interject, or if I have a question, I'll stop myself and ask you.
Okay.
Because I haven't written this down, so this is just from pure memory of how this movie goes.
Let's do this.
Right. So basically the movie follows Sophie, the eldest of, I believe, 3 children in the Hatter family. So her last name's
Okay, that was not explained at all because I was so confused. I'm like, who is this child? All I know is that she's just making cats. She says she's the oldest. Where are her siblings? I'm how old is she too? I don't know.
She's 18.
She's 8. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better because I was a little creeped out about how old is Howl? How old is Sophie?
Yeah, no, she's 18. So she is the eldest. We only meet one of her siblings, which is Letty. She's the blonde that works in the bakery.
Okay.
And her mother is the taller blonde lady that comes in with the hat in the beginning of the movie. Her father, I believe, has passed away. That's never, they don't talk about it, but he's not in the picture.
Yeah.
And she talks about, she basically, as the eldest, she's decided that it's her responsibility to keep the hat shop up and running. And so her father is out of the picture, but she mentions to Letty how important the shop was to father, I think she says. Specifically, I don't know if she says, I can't remember if she says her parents or she says father.
I think she just says father. She specifically said father.
So her mom seems to be kind of absent, in my opinion. She's kind of in her own world and doing her own thing. And her father was probably the one that really enjoyed the business. And that's, I assume, who she takes after, too, because she looks nothing like her mom and her sister.
All right.
So anyway, but on her way to the bakery to check on her sister, she does encounter Howl, who she doesn't know at the time is Howl.
He just saves her. And that confused me at first, too, because it's like, does she know who this is?
No, yeah. So she's getting hit on by 2 of the soldiers in town, which, backtrack slightly, this story takes place...
Is it
I thought I wrote it down.
This has to be a town in England, right?
I believe so. It takes place in the early 20th century, but they also have magic. So, magic is very prevalent, but they use, almost steampunk technology.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird cross of, old and new stuff put together. But I do think it's supposed to be modeled after England.
When I first was watching it, I was getting heavy. This was just making me think of Wizard of Oz and maybe mixed with Alice in Wonderland if she was in Wonderland, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's pretty whimsical, but for the most part, not everyone is magic. She doesn't have any magic. Which I believe is something that differs in the book. I do think she's not a witch in the book, but she has some kind of power, which I don't think she has in the movie.
Well, that was confusing me too, because they kept asking her oh, are you a witch? And she kept saying no. So at the end, when she quote, well, I don't know if I should say it now. I mean, there's going to be spoilers in this. I don't know if I also mentioned this. There's going to be spoilers every time we do a movie review. So we will prepare you. If you follow us on social media, follow us on social media. But I'll just go ahead and say it now. When she quote unquote saves Howl, I could have thought that was an implication. She has some type of magic and she doesn't know it.
Right. And she could. However, I don't know if that magic is coming from the fact that the house is enchanted or it's her. You know what I mean? Because she does enter that scene through the front door. So, is it the house? Is it the residing magic, or is it her? Or does it have something to do with the charm on her hand? So, like, we can get into that later, but I don't believe she has any powers, at least none that she can control.
Or that she's aware of.
Yes. So basically, she gets saved by Howl, who, like, intervenes with these soldiers that are trying to flirt with her. And then he's being chased, too, though. So the henchmen that you see in the movie, they're like blob monsters. They are the Witch of the Wastes henchmen, which we'll meet her in a little bit. But he basically is like, hold on tight, and he like flies into the sky and drops her off at the bakery. And in my opinion, she fell in love
instantly.
Yeah.
Love at first sight, basically.
Love at first sight. I don't believe he fell in love then, but I think she did.
I mean, I don't blame her. When I heard Howl talk, I was like, oh, right? Am I simping for Howl right now? I was a little bit, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, he's
very pretty and had a very nice voice.
Yeah, he's super popular in the fandom. I am a big fan of him. But we'll talk about his whole arc in a little bit. So she basically, we learn a little bit more about her when she's talking to her sister about how, like, her sister's concerned that she just flew in to the balcony with this random wizard that they don't know. And she's like, if it was Howl, he would have eaten your heart. And she's like, Howl only eats the hearts of beautiful girls. So we're already setting like a standard of how she feels about herself and how she perceives herself. Yeah. She doesn't think she's beautiful. She's just completely resigned to live this life that she set out for herself. She doesn't really put herself first. She's just going to live this life as the eldest, and she has very low self-esteem. So we kind of get that.
Yeah, you could see that compared to her sister, too, because, like, when she was talking to her sister, you know, like, all, I don't know if they were all workers or just men, like, visiting the place she works at, were all, like, randomly coming up to speak to Letty, tell her, like, oh, the Eclairs are here, like, oh, Letty, it's nice to meet you, like, flirting and stuff, so you can also see where that sets the standards of the two sisters and where Sophia'S insecurity comes from, because she's, like, Letty's the prettier, in quotes, sister.
Yeah, we don't meet her other two siblings, but I would assume that she's maybe the quote-unquote ugly duckling of the family, even though she's not. Like, I don't think anybody thinks that she's ugly. She just, that's her perception of herself. Because it's obvious. Yeah, it's obvious that she is this small, she's described as a small, innocent, kind girl in, like, when you read about her. So, but anyway, then, so she just stops to say hello to her sister. She's like, don't worry, he wouldn't eat my heart. And we then figure out that she doesn't even realize that it's Howl in the first place. She just thinks it's some random wizard. And she kind of thinks it's a dream for a second, and she's like, not sure about it. But anyway, she leaves.
Because I'm assuming no one knew what Howl looked like. They just knew his name and his castle that always is on the move.
Mm-hmm. There's also, I think, there's a big rumor that Howl is constantly eating the hearts of beautiful women, which I don't believe is true. They don't actually clarify whether he's ever done that, but I think he's just kind of a playboy. So he's like, maybe he's breaking girls' hearts, but I don't think he's actually eating them. But everyone's terrified of him because of this rumor that's going on. But I would assume that, like you said, nobody knows what he actually looks like, because then everyone would be freaking out. Like, oh my God, that was Howl.
That's another thing that made me think of the Wizard of Oz, because, you know, like how it's rumored Oz is like this great, powerful wizard. No one's ever seen him, but he can do all this stuff. And at the end, he's like a man from Kansas as well who can do nothing. So
exactly. Well, Howl is an actual wizard. A very good one. But
good wizard and actually is handsome. Yes,
right? Yeah, he's not some monster. So,
or is he?
Well,
dun dun.
We'll talk about that later.
Dun dun. Like in Law and Order,
right? Oh my gosh. So anyway, she decides to return to the shop. However, we find that she's being followed. So the blob monsters that were following her and Howl follow her back to her hat shop and lead the Witch of the Waste to her shop. Now, I don't know if they intended to do this, but, like, Witch of the Waste, a play on words, whether they're referring to just the wasteland, which is the area that Howl's moving castle roams in, or literally her waist, because she's not the most small woman.
And, like, when they said waste, she is the Witch of the Waste, I was assuming that it was going to be, like, my thoughts before I saw what the waste was just like a lime, like a landfill. Like I thought it was gonna be like disgusting, maybe swamp like, trash everywhere, or just like, looks, I don't know how to else explain it, like a swamp, like a disgusting, dirty swamp like, but it's not.
Right,
it's literally
like it's been wasted away or something like that.
So I thought that's what she was a witch of when they kept saying witch of the waste.
Yeah, no, so they're referring to like the Outlands, basically, where witches and wizards kind of roam free, and it's more dangerous. There's nothing innately gross about it. It's actually quite beautiful, but it's unsafe if you go there without magic. So, but I did question that.
No, it's totally about her appearance. It's about her appearance. Let's not try to pretend or fake it.
I'm like, are they calling her fat?
They are. They are. They're calling her fat. They're calling her every name in the book that I guess was not appropriate, but we can get away with at that time. So.
Right. Well, she's very rude, so I'm not inclined to defend her. But, so basically, I don't know why she, necessarily curses Sophie, because she does place a curse on her, because I guess she assumes that she's associated with Howl.
That's what I thought, because when I first watched it, I was very confused on that as well. And then when I was rewatching it before we got on this call, I was like, maybe because Howl was being watched and the minions saw Sophie with Howl, so she assumed that they like knew each other or were together through her minions like telling her, or maybe she can see, I don't really know, and that's why she just targeted Sophie.
She used to have eyes everywhere, and they were obviously following him when he was in the city, so I'm assuming that Sophie was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, exactly. I think so too.
Ended up getting cursed by this witch, and the curse basically turns her into a 90-year-old woman. So she shrinks, her voice changes, she's got all these wrinkles and whatnot. And as the witch is leaving, she says the worst thing about that curse is that you can't talk about it. So it's basically she can't tell anyone that she's cursed. So she freaks out for a minute and then thinks she's dreaming, and she's like, I'm just going to go to bed. She handles it surprisingly well.
She kept saying, like, to stay calm, to stay calm. 5 minutes later, she'd run around, she'd look at herself in the mirror to stay calm. And I was like, really?
Yeah, I love the slow creep and then runs away. So
that part was cute.
Pretty funny. Her little grandma noises as she's freaking out are pretty cute. But she decides that it's probably just a dream and she's just going to go to bed and everything's going to be fine in the morning. So in the morning, basically, her mom comes in, is asking where she is, and the other ladies, those could be her siblings. They don't address them. They don't talk with their names. They're just there. So whether they're working in the shop or their siblings, who knows? But they're like, she hasn't come down from her room this morning. So she goes up and knocks on the door. And Sophie feels like she can't show her mom what's going on. She can't tell her that she's cursed. So she's going to be really confused. So she just fakes a cold, and her mom makes the very
there's a weird plot hole in that, which I will bring up later on, but yeah, keep going.
I think I know what you might say, but
okay.
She basically says, I have a cold, I don't want you to catch it, and her mom makes the observation, oh, you sound like a 90-year-old woman. Yeah, pretty accurate, she is. But
you don't say. I wonder why.
Yeah. But anyway, her mom does not question this. She just gets up and leaves, and she heads into the waste to try to find, I guess she's just looking for, she knows she has to leave, she can't stay there, and she's going to try to figure out how to break her own curse, and she's going to go look for the Witch of the Waste, probably, to try to get her to break it. I thought she was just going to look
for any type of wizard to help her break it.
Yeah, well, she doesn't specify who she's looking for, but I don't think she went there to find Howl, which was what ends up happening. But I think with her mom, that's why I kind of said she's an absent mother, because her mom makes no effort to look for her, I don't think. She says she does later on, but...
Yeah, when she was... I think this was either before she got turned into an old lady or after. Her mom came in one scene, and she was talking about how she got remarried.
Yes. So I do believe that the reason that I think her mom knows about the fact that she's old now, because that is kind of weird. She doesn't really address it. She says, oh my gosh, you look so old. But I think, well, I don't want to spoil it because we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, go back to the waste, but just like her mom got remarried and she's basically just never there. So I'm assuming Sophie just lives at the shop, but like kind of almost independent in a way. Like she doesn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think her room, that's like their house and her room, but I don't think her mom's there very often. I think she's out traveling, obviously, possibly meeting men.
Rich men.
Kind of, rich
standards.
Men. Right? I mean, she's very pretty, but
like, she is. She seems, which, like, we talked about the Sophie ugly duckling thing, so earlier.
Right. She seems very absent. So I don't think she probably didn't even notice Sophie was gone for a while before she even realized. But anyway, so Sophie goes out into the waste in search of a way to break her curse. I'll just put it that way because they don't really address what she's going to look for. And then she comes across a new friend who will introduce our first kind of other character, who's Turnip Head, who happens to be an upside down scarecrow, who she initially thinks would be a great cane. She sees a stick poking out of a bush and she pulls him upright, and now he decides that he's attached to her and he's going to follow her everywhere because she helped him. So
new friend.
He ends up finding her an actual cane. Yes, he's very cute. He hops around. And she calls him Turnip Head because his head is made out of a turnip, which is pretty funny. And she's like, I always hated turnips, which makes me laugh. But so he finds her an actual cane, and she she's like, if while you're being helpful, why don't you go find me a place to stay? And he just jumps off, and she thinks she's all slick. She's gotten rid of him. And then however long later, Howl's Moving Castle starts to approach her, and Turnip Head's hopping right in front of it. And she's like, that is not what I meant when I asked for a place to stay. But she does decide to go in the castle because she says Howl would need the heart up of a shriveled old lady. So she's not concerned about how she looks. And that's where we meet Calcifer. So he is a fire demon in the fireplace of Howl's Moving Castle, and the castle itself, she's like, is this what you call a castle? Because it's basically a bunch of like metal pieces stuck together, and it walks on 4 like robotic legs, and it's very, very dirty on the inside.
Yeah.
So it's not really a castle. It's more like a house that's been hodgepodge together in a weird way. And Calcifer can see that she's been cursed. So he's like, that's a really nasty curse you got there. And she's like cold and tired and kind of like not listening to him. And he decides to strike up a deal with her. So if she can break the curse that he has with Howl, he'll break her curse in return. But he can't tell her about his curse either. So
what's with all these curses you can't talk about, but...
Right? It's like a Fight Club. You can't talk about Fight Club. So
another movie I haven't seen.
I haven't seen it either, but I know the line.
Okay.
But anyway, they've agreed to help each other, and she dozes off, and Calcifer's like, hey, wait. Like, why are you falling asleep? But anyway, the next morning, we meet Markle, which you mentioned is your favorite voice actor.
Josh Hutcherson. Oh, yes, Markle.
He we don't really learn much about his backstory, but he's a child. I don't know how old he is. I didn't actually look that up, but I would guess he's around 10, maybe.
Yeah, I would think that.
He's really small, but he's so intelligent that I think he's older than he looks. But he's basically an apprentice. I assume that he's probably some kind of orphan wizard that Howl took under his wing, and he's an apprentice, and he... The funny thing about this story is nobody seems very concerned about Sophie being there. He's just like, who's this old lady?
I know. They're like, who's this old lady? And they're like, oh, okay.
Right, yeah, so...
She just happened to appear in this house randomly, so just sleeping.
I do have a theory, which I'll talk about later on, why I think Calcifer and Howl are cool with her. But Markle, just no stranger danger whatsoever.
He's just a child, so like a lot of children are kind of just like, they're quick to accept things. We usually teach them to like, be cautious of stuff, but he's just like, oh, okay, cool. She's not harming anyone. She's not doing anything. What's up?
Yeah, she's also stereotypical, but she's also a little old lady. Who's she gonna hurt? But anyway. So
don't let that fool you, though. Little old ladies can be very scary.
That's not a good rule of thumb.
No, it's not.
That the old lady is not gonna hurt you. But anyway. So we get a little peek at like what's going on when he starts answering the door. So there's a knob and there's four colors on it. 2 go to one goes to the Royal City, 1 goes to Port Haven, which is a seaside town in this realm, I guess. I'm not entirely sure where it is. And then there's a black option, which is just like a black void that only Howl goes in. So that's like the do not touch this door like realm for his area. And then there's the waste, which is green, where she came from. And he basically Howl, he has a lot of aliases. So in Port Haven, he's considered, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the names.
He has two that he goes by, and I forget.
Pendragon is the one in the Royal City, and then there's another one.
Is it Jenkins or something?
Jenkins, yes. So Jenkins is the Port Haven one. Fun fact, when I got the game Animal Crossing, I named my town Port Haven because I'm so obsessed with this movie.
Of course you did.
But anyway, so she finds this very amusing and starts switching back and forth, and we kind of get to see how the door works, and Margot gets kind of annoyed with her and tells her to get back in before she loses her nose, slamming it in the door.
Also, just one real quick question. Mm-hmm. Why does Marco keep... Oh, I think he says it. You know what? Never mind. I was like, why does he keep practicing his magic? But why an old man?
Who knows? Yeah, he has a disguise on.
And his voice is still the same. So it feels like just a kid playing dress up.
Exactly. Yeah, but basically, while he's answering the door, two guards from both Port Haven and the Royal City come to deliver basically summons for both Pendragon and Jenkins to report to the castle to fight in the war. Yes. We don't really get a really good idea of like who's fighting in the war and why they're fighting, but
so I remember there was a part, I don't know if it was before Sophia met Howl or after, because I think she was in an alleyway, but in the background, if you didn't notice, it was very at the beginning of the movie, that's why I don't remember what part it was, but there was three men and they're talking around a newspaper and they were talking about how the prince was missing. They don't know how. I think the war started because he's missing.
Right, and I thought about that, but it's surprising to me that two countries would go to war just because a prince went missing. But maybe that's enough warrant. I just feel like...
I don't know how stuff worked back then, so I don't think it's that off.
I feel like... Now, I have read, and I don't know how accurate this is, because I read it off Wikipedia, so who knows? But apparently Miyazaki wanted to... He didn't... At the time that he thought of this, or was writing this movie, the Iraq War was going on. And he is very anti-war.
Yeah. Okay.
So he wanted to portray the idiocy of war. So, like, maybe that is a good reason. Our prince went missing, so we're going to bomb an entire country. You know, like, it's kind of a silly reason.
Because maybe they thought the other country kidnapped him and, holding him ransom, but, like, they didn't. But it doesn't matter. Even if the two countries... It doesn't matter if they don't like each other anyway. So that's enough reason for them to want to go to war.
Right. So they don't fully explain why we're at war. But pretty much everyone we talk to thinks that the war is stupid.
Yeah.
So except for like the king. So anyway, he needs to report to the palace, and part of the reason, which he explains later on, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway, but part of the reason why he has these pen names or these aliases is so that he can escape fighting in the war, because they're basically collecting all the witches and wizards and turning them into monsters in order to fight for them. So he doesn't want to lose himself in this war, and he really doesn't agree with the war in the first place. So we get to see Howl again when Sophie attempts to cook bacon and eggs on Calcifer, and she basically threatens him with pouring a bucket of water on his head if he doesn't cooperate, because normally he wouldn't let anyone cook on him. And one of my favorite lines in the movie is, "I hope all your bacon burns." But he's like under the skillet, like threatening her. He's a super funny character. He's my favorite character, by the way, if that's not obvious.
Yes, but, I think I picked up on it, but I could tell. I like him too. He actually is one of my favorite characters as well.
But anyway, Howl comes back in, and he really doesn't really question Sophie all that much. He does ask her why she's there, and she makes up this lame excuse.
Yeah, that she's the cleaning lady. Now, did she realize that was the same person that helped her in the alley? Because I was kind of like sitting here, and I was like, so we're not going to be like, oh, it's you. Even though she can't explain her curse, it was all just so nonchalant, like they already...
Yeah, she the only recognition that she even gives is her eyes kind of widen when he walks in, but she never really, like, has a crisis over, oh my god, that's Howl, and he helped me, and like
from all the rumors of him eating hearts and like being this monster, we took it like the way he looked pretty chill.
Yeah, I think she's just at this point like, what the heck is happening with my life? It's like I don't really care anymore. So she's just taking it with how it comes, and she blames Calcifer for hiring her as a maid, which I'm just gonna say it right now. I believe that Howl can see through her curse. I think he knows who she is, and I think that he's not concerned that she's there. Like,
well, God, what is the fire name again?
Calcifer.
I almost said something. I don't know what I was about to say. If Calcifer could see it, I wouldn't know. Can't talk. I wouldn't understand why he wouldn't be able to see it also. Yeah. Because he was able to see it through the scarecrow.
Right. I do think that he knows who she is, and I'll talk about that a little further on because it also plays into a theory towards the end, but I don't want to spoil it. So I do think he knows who she is, not in only just the fact that he saved her. I think he, like, knows who she is. So, if that makes sense.
It does.
But
I don't know what your theory is, so I'm waiting on that as well.
Right. But anyway, so he kind of just accepts that, and she gets, like, oh, I'm skipping over an important part. So basically, the Witch of the Waste, when she curses her, she slips a note to Howl in her pocket. And when they're eating, he just randomly, like...
He's like, what's that note in your pocket? I was like, what?
Yeah, he must sense it. So she's like, what the heck? And she pulls it out, and she's like, how'd that get there? And he's like, give it to me. And she's like, oh, okay. So it's basically... it burns into the table, and it's like this old, like, writing that only Howl can read, and it says, I should have written it down, but it's, if I remember correctly, it's something like, to the boy who swallowed a star, I'm gonna get your heart from you, basically. So that gives you a little insight on, it makes more sense later on.
Yeah, I should have written it down too, because I didn't realize that was the quote, and now I understand it more. But
it makes more sense later on. But it's basically like, the first part I think I have right, to the boy who swallowed a star. Basically, I'm coming for you, and I will get your heart. So the Witch of the Waste has an obsession with Howl's heart.
It's so hard to say.
Her name is so hard to say.
I feel like if we keep saying it, we're gonna get tongue-tied. It's fine. Right?
And also a little bit more about her. I don't know if they really go into this, but basically
They don't, because I want to know why she's obsessed with him. Why is she so obsessed with Howl?
So, he talks about it a little bit, how she was once very beautiful, and he pursued her, and then he found out that she wasn't, and what he means by this is that she's more likely eating young men's heart, rather than the other way around. Oh. She collects young, handsome men, takes their hearts, and absorbs their youth. So that's why she's been able to stay young for so long. And when he encountered her, I'm assuming her appearance was much different and she looked much younger and more beautiful. And he found out the real reason why she looked that way, and he decided not to pursue her. And so he's basically the one that got away. So now she's obsessed with getting his heart because she's never lost anyone.
Oh, that makes more sense. I really just thought they were both super old. She was pretty at one time, and she just got old, and he just dumped her, and she was just being heartbroken about it, which is pettiness all around, but that makes more sense.
I don't know how old Howl is. However, I don't think he's doing anything to suppress his age. So I think the way he looks is the way he actually is.
His actual age. Okay, yes. He's not like the witch. I keep wanting to say wicked before I say witch. I keep wanting to say the wicked witch of the waste. Like a Wizard of Oz. You could call her that, but I'm mixing it up with the wicked witch of the West.
Yeah.
The Witch of the West. Of Witch of the West. The Waste. Too many W's. Let's move on. Forget what I was going to say.
We could just call her Wow. W-O.
Double W?
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
W-O-W.
Let's go with that. We're going to call her Wow from now on.
Right. But anyway, so he receives this note from her, and he basically blows it off. He's like, oh, that can't be good for the table, and gets rid of it. But apparently the curse is still there. But they don't really explain that. I don't know what curse they're talking about. I don't know if it's just like it's gonna help her find him, or like it's basically just a threat that she's coming for his
Off topic
heart.
real quick. I don't know why when you just resaid that made me think of the Hunger Games. Like when you're like, that can't be good for the table, I've just immediately think like, this is mahogany. Like that's on the table. I don't know why.
That's really funny.
I just thought of that right now.
It's a good reference.
It is.
But anyway, he, I guess that spoils his appetite because he throws perfectly good bacon and eggs into Calcifer's mouth, and he's like, I gotta go. This is, I don't know if he goes to handle the curse or if he just goes out to fight more. But
I thought he just went to go take a bath. Because he asked Calcifer if he can move the house. Confused. Yeah, if he can move the house a couple to the west, and then he's like, and run me my bath. He's like, you expect me to do both these things at the same time?
Nobody else works around here. Yeah, so you're right. I'm jumping the gun a little bit.
It's okay.
Which, keep in mind, it's all from memory. So
you're doing a pretty good job from doing this without taking any notes. So right. I'll give you some props.
So let's see. I gotta remember where I am now. So basically, she gets frustrated because Markle asks her if she's working for the Witch of the Waste because she had that note in her pocket, and she starts to go off at him, trying to tell him that she would never work for him because she cursed her. And she gets so frustrated, she slams her hands down on the table, and she's decided that she's going to go on a cleaning spree. So she is really aggressively, she's tired of being treated like a little old lady. She's sweeping and mopping and getting all frustrated.
When she gets mad, it shows, when the witch said you can't talk about the curse, she really can't. She tried to explain, who she is and that she's cursed, and then you see her mouth starts getting all, wrinkled up, she physically cannot talk about it. So, and then it's the funny part where she's like, next time I see that witch, I'm gonna bring her fat neck. I was like, oh god.
Yeah, she's real mad. Big mad. So she's basically going around and even telling all the bugs, I'm gonna bite your little heads off if you don't run. So, and then she starts to sweep out the ashes from under Calcifer, and he is acting like a little baby, and she puts him in a dish of some kind, and he actually ends up falling in there, and that's when Howl shows back up, and he blows on him basically, which they don't really explain that either, but basically he brings him back to life, puts him on the fireplace, and kind of tells her, please don't get carried away. Don't harass my friend. And Calcifer then says, after, I think at that point, then Howl leaves into the black dome area. And Calcifer says to Sophie, if I die, Howl dies too. So that's our first, look into why they're connected. We don't really know why yet, but basically they're connected in some way that if one of them dies, the other one dies. So, I'm trying to, I gotta think back.
I just remember there were some scenes of them, doing laundry. I think they went to the waste to do laundry.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So she continues her cleaning spree. They find
Turnip Head comes back.
Turnip Head again. Yeah, stuck in the gears of the ship, and he helps them with the laundry. This is also the point where she's thoroughly impressed by the fact that Calcifer is moving the castle, and she tells him that she likes his spark.
She likes his spark. And he gets so happy.
Thoroughly happy.
He's like, she likes my spark.
Right? And I think makes him feel appreciated. That's a big bonding moment for them.
You're moving how big of a machinery all on your own.
Mm-hmm. So then at that point, she kind of she talks to Markle a little about how, once you're old, you just want to look at the scenery. So she's kind of becoming more accepting of her situation, I guess, and not as concerned. She's just kind of happy to be doing what she's doing. She doesn't really make that much of an effort to break her curse. She's not really looking for ways to do it. She's just kind of living her life, which we'll find out later will help her break her curse. But she's not really actively looking for a way to break it. Okay, so basically, after she's done with her cleaning spree, I don't think I'm missing anything. I think Howl comes back, and he's kind of in this half bird, half human form, and we learn that he kind of turns himself into a bird-like creature in order to go fight. I don't know exactly who he's fighting, And he mentions to Calcifer that his own kind attacked him. So basically wizards that were turned into monsters in order to help the king fight. And are just killing machines. They're just killing anybody they see. They're not like...
They're basically not humans anymore. Which is what he brought up, because Calcifer said if you keep turning into this form, you're not going to turn back into a human. So I don't know what type of form or spell they're doing to turn into these monsters, but I'm assuming when you use it too much, it's irreversible.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think he's just going out and sabotaging everyone's ships. That's kind of his goal, is to like, so that neither side makes any headway. But they don't really talk about why he's going out and fighting.
Which is kind of surprising since he's so against the war, yet he is going out and fighting, even though he's not fighting on his side. So I don't understand that either.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to do anything he can to, like, stop it, I guess. And I think he's also kind of at a loss for what to do, because he's too scared to go to the capital, and, like, he can't tell them that he doesn't want to fight for them, but he still wants to, like, help in some kind of way. So his way of trying to help is making sure that neither one can bomb each other, and like probably protecting the citizens. Like if he gets rid of the bombs, then they can't bomb on the citizens. I think that's kind of his goal. So from the little glimpses of the scenes we get, because they really don't talk about it, they just kind of show him fighting. But also in the movie, they don't really differentiate between who's the enemy and who's not. So it's kind of hard to tell like who he's fighting.
Or who even starts the war either, because I don't know what country.
They don't really talk about it.
They don't talk about the war.
I think it's about the war. I think it's just supposed to be like there's a war happening in the background of this story. So basically he goes to take another bath, and Sophie arranged all of his hair dye products because he's not naturally blonde. And he has a little temper tantrum, which is I
was like oh, dude, get over it.
Yeah. The worst temper tantrum I've ever seen over hair.
A grown man throw over hair dye.
He basically says, if I'm not beautiful, I have no reason to live, which is very narcissistic.
That's when I had to stop it and just keep laughing. I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
It's not that bad, and you actually look better with black hair than blonde. I'm gonna say it. Okay, I'm gonna say it. He looks better with the black hair than the blonde.
I agree. And the black hair is his natural color anyway, and he sticks with that for the rest of the movie. But he's having a little temper tantrum, and I think what I attribute that to is, like, he's not very mature yet. He hasn't done a lot of maturing in his life. He's kind of been running away his whole life, and the only thing that's been consistent is that young ladies are attracted to him. So he's constantly been searching for love. So the fact that he now thinks that his whole image is thrown off, that's his personality right now. He has more character development, but at this point in time, all he knows is this persona that he's put on, and if he can't be beautiful, he doesn't want to do anything.
Right, because even Markle said, like, I haven't seen him throw this big of a tantrum when a girl dumped him. Yeah. So you can tell he's usually the one that does the dumping. So if he hasn't thrown a tantrum that bad for when a girl dumped him, that's saying something.
Any type of rejection or any type of change, really, I think he's really afraid of. So he throws this temper tantrum, and this really upsets Sophie because she shouts at him, like, you don't even understand, like, I've never once been beautiful in my whole life, reiterating the fact that she has such low self-esteem, and she really has never felt very confident in herself. So she runs out, she's bawling her eyes out, she goes and stands in the rain, and poor Turnip Head comes with an umbrella to hold up over her head.
I also really like Turnip Head. He's also my favorite.
He's cute. I like him
supportive.
A lot. Right.
He doesn't have to talk. He just brings you what you need. He's there for you if you need to talk to somebody. I appreciate a Turnip Head.
Right. So, but anyway, Markle comes running out, freaking out, and he's gonna die, Calcifer's gonna drown in this goo that he's been oozing from his body, because all of his, what I attribute is like all of his negative and sorrow and bad emotions literally oozing out of him.
It's turning into slime, which reminded me of something, but I couldn't remember what, so I can't say what, but it seemed familiar with the way that his emotions making him turn like into something inanimate. Maybe it'll come to me later.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, Sophie, she's a very strong character, because she picks herself back up, she wipes her tears off, and she's like, oh, stop being a baby. And she runs the water again, and she has Markle help them up the stairs. A little funny moment of him losing his towel, and she's like,
trying not to look. And then they actually show a part of like his bare butt that's him still going up the stairs.
Yeah.
We're still keeping it PG, guys. It is rated PG.
But anyway, they get him cleaned up, and basically the next scene we see him in, he's kind of laying in his bed, like, unemotional, and she tries to bring him some more milk and get him to drink something, and, like, he doesn't want her to leave. So she kind of just comforts him and sits by his bed, and he opens up about how he's really scared and a coward, and he doesn't want to report to the castle. And she's like, well, just tell him you don't want to participate. And he's like, he took an oath when he went to the Magic Academy saying that he has to report whenever summoned and basically follow orders. So he can't just outright reject the king, and he can't run forever because they are going to eventually find him. So he comes up with this brilliant idea that he'll send Sophie in place of him as his mother, and to tell Madame Sullivan and the king that he is too much of a coward and he can't fight in the war and he wouldn't be any use anyway. Now we're going to meet Madame Sullivan in a little bit, and we'll talk about her some. But basically, Sophie thinks this is crazy, but she's going to do it anyway because she's in love. So he makes her all pretty, and he's like, I'll follow you in disguise. And so she goes to the castle, and once again, we meet the Witch of the Waste. So she has been royally invited, according to her, to the kingdom, and she's like, it's about time that they acknowledged me for my great power. And then the funny scene of her having to climb a million stairs.
Oh my god, that was very torturous to watch.
Yeah, as we've mentioned, she is a large lady, and apparently you can't have any vehicles up in the palace. So her henchmen, like, die, and her vehicles are gone. And she gets carried around in this little, like, wagon thing. But so it's really painful to watch, and the animation really shines through in this moment because of just how, like,
her sweat, like I really thought she was just gonna melt right there, like her
quadruple fat, like, chins. And Sophie, so Sophie, at this point, you can kind of see her. She's already started to change. So she's standing more upright. She's a little bit thinner. Her hair's a little bit longer. And she's
not going to talk about their back and forth when they're going up the stairs besides the way the witch looks? But Sophie kept just be like, you know, if you just break the curse, I can probably help you. So much pettiness. But then, like, when she revealed she doesn't know how, I'm like, wait, so you put a curse on someone you don't know how to break?
Because she's just evil. Yeah, she does. There's a line that says, my talents are in casting, not breaking. So yeah, I don't know if that's normal.
It should be a neither if you can't break what you put on. That goes into life lessons.
Yeah, no. So she's basically just pure evil. She doesn't really care about others. And she doesn't, like she said, her talent lies in tasking. She never even bothered to learn how to break them because she never intended to break them.
Wow. Did not know that.
So, there's also this funny scene. There's this little dog that starts following Sophie as she's walking through the kingdom, and she thinks it's Howl, which we later learn that it's not. That's not the disguise he chose. And there is a funny moment where, like, a young man and a young woman fly over her in this fancy airplane, and she's like, oh, that could be him. But it's not. None of that is him. But the dog isn't either. The dog turns out to be, like, an errand dog for Madame Sullivan, and he was tasked with fetching Sophie, but he ends up making Sophie carry him up the stairs because he's like this little fat, like, mutt-looking dog. He looks like a Maltese, one of those floppy dogs with the fat bellies. But anyway, they get up to the top, and they usher the Witch of the Waste into another room, and they bring Sophie to Madame Sullivan. And they're talking for a little bit. She introduces herself as as Pendragon's mother. And you can obviously tell that Madame Sullivan is a very powerful witch. She can see through that. She's not buying any of this. She's playing along, but I'm sure she doesn't believe it for a second. I'm sure she can see through her curse as well.
I'm pretty sure she also knows Pendragon isn't even real.
Yes,
so.
I do think so. I think, I don't know if they established this, but Howl, I'm pretty sure, was taught by her.
She brings it up.
She does.
I think she brings it up because I remember something about she saying he was her apprentice, so that's why I'm like, she knows.
Basically her greatest student. And she's been kind of keeping tabs on him. And one thing that I thought was awful creepy is, you know, her little clone children. Did you happen to notice little servants that are around her all look the same? And they're all children with blonde hair.
I did not notice that.
They all look identical to me, so which makes me think that they're clones.
But I didn't know there was more than one, and you're probably right.
There's multiple of them. And I think that they are modeled after young Howl, which is just creepy.
You bring a very good point there.
I think they look like him, the little blonde bob cut. Now, he does have originally black hair, but I would assume that once he came to train with her, maybe that's when he made the shift. And he, like, had this new persona. Or she's just changing it slightly so that it doesn't look exactly like him. But I think she's created these little children, and I think they're modeled after Howl. They don't talk about that, but that's just my own personal belief.
It'd be very creepy if it was.
It is super creepy. But anyway, she has them bring out the Witch of the Waste, who has now been, like, light bulbed. I don't really know what's going on there.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But basically, they revert her back to her original age, and they remove all of her powers. So how they go about that, I'm not sure. But it's basically she's put in a room with all these light bulbs, and they, like, flash her normal, or suck all her, drain all her power. So she is rolled out on this little cart, and she's now this decrepit little old lady that doesn't have any powers. And Sophie, just showing how kind she actually is actually concerned for the witch, and ends up taking her back with her when they escape, which I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but she ends up caring for her, which is very big of her considering that she's the reason she's in this predicament. But anyway, Sophie she's playing this part of the mother, telling how he's not going to be useful and they shouldn't even bother bringing him in. I don't remember exactly what Miss Sullivan says. But basically Sophie starts defending him. And as she's gaining more confidence in herself and being able to speak her mind, she reverts back to her young age. And Sullivan catches her and says, "Oh, you're in love with him." And then she reverts back to her old age because she's basically been caught and she doesn't really believe that yet. I don't think she accepts that could even be something in the realm of possibility. So she reverts back. And then that's when Howl makes his grand entrance. He was actually disguised as the king. And he walks in, and obviously Sullivan can see through that. And she's like, "Oh, you're very eloquent today, king." And then the real king walks in.
I was going to say 2 seconds later, the real king walks in talking the complete opposite of how Howl was portraying him, talking about, what did he was talking about war, but
he was like, "I really think that magic isn't the way to win this war. And we should just stop all of this." And she's like, "Oh, really?"
And then the real king comes in like, "Look at all these people we've just killed. These new weapons."
He's like, "I've got a new battle plan. We're gonna be on top of them all," or something like that. So, and then he starts bursting out to laughter and say, "Oh, this is the best clone you made of me yet." Which that kind of plays into my clone theory. Obviously, she makes clones.
Yeah.
So
you could be right.
This isn't the first time that she's done this. And she's modeled ones after him before, so why not model ones after Howl and make them serve her, which is just creepy. But anyway, he reveals himself to be the Howl, and the king goes away. But Sullivan decides that she's like, "Well, if you're not going to participate, I'm going to force you, and I'm going to show Sophie what you really are." So she starts doing this, like, enchantment around them, and he's forcibly turning him into that bird-like creature. And Sophie recognizes that he's kind of like losing himself a little bit, so she distracts him and pushes him away and tells him it's a trap, and they end up escaping. Which I didn't understand that the first time. Like, how did they get out of that? What was she trying to do? But I think that Sophie recognized that he wasn't himself, and she got them out of there. And he even says that. He's like, "I was going to be in a really bad spot if it wasn't for you, and you gave me the courage to come." Because she's like, "Why did you even have me come if you were going to come do that yourself?" And he knew that he needed her because something like that could happen, I guess. So they basically get on the flying machine that he came in, and this is when she receives the ring, the charm, which There's some theory about the ring, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. But basically, if you summon Casper with your heart, it'll point you in the direction of where he is. So he gives her some invisibility, and they go separate ways. And she's now taken the Witch of the Waste, the little dog, and flying back home. She's gone home with 2 new companions. And the dog's name's Keen. I didn't mention that, or Heen.
I didn't know the dog name had a name. So
yeah, his name is Heen, and he's basically like, I don't know if he's like a little human that got turned into a dog, because he's awful smart for a dog. But he basically betrays Sullivan and ends up leaving with her anyway. So they fly back to the castle, and she lands the plane into the castle's face. And then that night, so we get a little glimpse of, I guess, Howl fighting again. But then this part was very confusing for me at first, but she basically dreams. Like, he comes back, he's in this bird form, and he's worried. She dreams that he's been taken over by his demons and he's not going to return. And I thought that was real at first, because I think she in that moment...
that confused me too, but like, she wasn't the old lady.
Yes,
she was herself.
Which there's theories about that. Like, well, in her dream, she forgets about the curse, so it's like kind of controlled by her own mentality. So in moments when she's vulnerable, because they show that multiple times, when she's sleeping, she looks normal. But I think that's more so just Howl being able to see through the curse, because it's always when he's looking at her. So I think that's like his vision. Like, he's just seeing her as how she really is.
I didn't think about that.
Rather than her just not being aware of the curse and being asleep. Mm-hmm. So it could be either or, but I tend to buy more into like, that's his point of view of her. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe. I didn't think about that, because I didn't think... there was, like, earlier, she was sleeping, but she was herself, but was Howl looking at her?
He pulls back the curtain and looks at her. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes more sense if it's like that.
And then when he's walking by her in her dream, I don't know if that's supposed to be his version, or if she's just in her dream, and she doesn't view herself as an old lady, because that's not how she lived. So when you're dreaming about yourself, you're obviously going to dream about the you that you know. So that's kind of that scene.
If you dream in third person.
That's true. So,
not to get off topic, because like, when I dream, and if I have dreams about myself, I don't see myself. I see everything through my like point of view. So like, yeah, it's really, I dream really weird. And even if I look in a mirror, I can't see myself in my dreams, but I can see other people.
Right. Yeah. So this movie is a little bit confusing. And that's probably part of the reason why I had to watch it 2 times. Yeah, so many times. So why she's her young self in her dream, I'm not really sure. It could be either. It could be that's Howl's perception of her, or it could be she's just unaware of her curse when she's dreaming, so she's not portrayed that way. Or in the dream, she actually professes her love for Howl for the first time. So maybe it's her confidence level that's getting her there. But anyway, she wakes up from the dream. Howl's back. He seems to be in an okay mood, and he's decided that we're going to move the shops, mainly because as we see, both the soldiers on either side of Port Haven or the Royal City barge into the shop, so they gotta move, because I think the idea that even though the portals are attached to certain doors and you can change them, like, you would think that they wouldn't be able to get in if the portal wasn't switched to it. I didn't understand how.
Yeah, I didn't understand how that worked. From the house is always moving, yet if they settle somewhere in the ports,
yeah, so it's like,
I probably never will.
I always thought it was more like a portal, but it doesn't really make sense that they have to move, because if they break through the door, are they in danger? Like, I guess they are, because that plays into effect later on too. So I guess for whatever reason, even though it's a portal, they're in danger if they stay there. So he ends up drawing like a pentagram on the ground and changing the locations. So one's still the waste, he basically takes over her hat shop, and they intend to turn it into a flower shop. And the third location is basically a flower field with a little workshop in it that his uncle gave him when he was a child to do his studies. So she's just blown away by this area. It's really beautiful. And at that point, she does turn back into her younger self, because I think she's just so elated with joy. And at this point in the movie, she's switching a lot. She's going back and forth between young and old. So we can see that she's close to breaking her curse. But she's so happy in the field, and then we see this airship in this like pristine place, and he's really confused. They're both really confused as to why it's there.
Before the airship comes, doesn't she say like what kind of starts turning her back into the old lady? Like, it seems like you're leaving us. That's why you're showing us all this beautiful.
Yeah, so she basically thinks that he's like setting up their lives so that they'll be okay without him. And she starts to get really concerned that he's leaving, and she starts to get sad again. And she basically starts to, I don't really remember why, I'm forgetting the lines now, but she basically says,
girl, you're doing so much better than me. I'm surprised you be remembering lines. You're remembering a lot with no notes.
Yeah. She's basically like, I'm not beautiful anyway. And he's like, Sophie, you're beautiful. And she reverts back. And then they see, you're right, then they see the airship, and he's like, what's that thing doing here? So they basically like, he just waves his hand and gets rid of all of the bombs that are in there. He messes with it. He's like, it's not going to crash, but I'm just messing with it. In his hand, you can see there's like feathers sticking out. So he's having a really hard time just using his magic without relying on that bird form of his. So, and she sees it and she's really concerned, but then he's like, don't look at that, just, we're gonna go. And he grabs her and they fly. He basically throws her into the castle, and I like that scene because like Markle comes back in, he's like, what are you doing on the stairs? And she's like, how dare he treat me like this? I'm too old to be treated like this, I think is what she says. But anyway, so he goes once again to fight, which is really concerning because at this point we've seen multiple times that he's having harder and harder time transferring back into his normal self. So we don't see him again for a little bit. And this is when I guess they just go about their business. I guess in theory, like a couple days have passed, even though it doesn't seem like that. But a couple days go by and because now at this point they've already converted it into a flower shop. I don't know if you noticed that. But I
didn't know time had passed, so
I think the idea is that a couple of days passes and she's collecting flowers, and that's when we see her mother again. So
this is the part that confuses me because all of a sudden her mom shows up. She's like, "Oh, Sophie, it's been so long since I see you, so we're not going to mention how Sophie's this old lady. We're just going to hug her like we haven't seen her in like."
Yeah, the fact that she recognizes her right off the bat.
Exactly.
And just runs to her and like, you know, but she does say it. She's like, "Oh, you're so old."
But she says it jokingly, like she already knew she was like this, and Sophie doesn't even say anything either. So that's why I'm like, what did I miss something here?
Right. I think the problem there is that I don't think it looks like a plot hole, but I don't think it actually is because I think her husband has something to do with Madame Sullivan. And Madame Sullivan already gave her the rundown. Like, this is what happened. She was cursed. She's been hanging out with Howl. I need you to place this spy bug in her home for you to be... I don't know if she, like, offered the husband to her or threatened her in some way that she wouldn't be able to marry this new guy.
Something, because
she didn't do this.
Yeah, because when one of the clones... I think they're clones too now. Because I didn't realize that was a little boy taking her back to the carriage after she was done singing to Sophie. She's like, take me back to my husband. So I didn't know if they like captured him to threaten Sophie's mom to find her, or... I
think they're threatening the husband, or they're threatening her ability to be with her husband, which obviously is more important to her than her own daughter. So whatever they've threatened her with...
Her husband or that money?
The money, probably. Because she's like, he's rich and we can all live together and... I want you to come be with me, basically, but I don't think she means it. I think that's an empty, like, offer.
Empty promise.
So basically, we see this little, like, snippet of the Witch of the Waste, who is not as, like, fragile as she perceives to be, because she hops off that little chair and gets that little bag so quick. She's like a little gremlin.
Who does?
The Witch of the Waste. She, basically her mom plants this little purse in Sophie's house. That's got a spy bug in it, and the Witch of the Waste goes and grabs it, and she's like looking through it, and she finds the little bug, and she's like, "Oh, you think you're so sneaky, Sullivan? That's not going to work." And she feeds it to Calcifer, which makes him very, very sick.
See, I must have not been paying attention to that part because I didn't understand what was going on, but that makes more sense now she said it.
The little worm thing she's holding is like a peeping bug, she calls it. And she throws it into Calcifer to basically kill it, but he has to like eat it and makes him sick. So, and she finds a cigar in there as well, and she starts smoking and making the house smell horrible. Which she doesn't mention to Sophie that she found a peeping bug. So I don't know why, or if she's just not important, but we get a snippet back of her mom apologizing to Sophie, and I put air quotes on that because I don't think she's that sorry. She hasn't proven to be the best motherly figure, and she's obviously, other things are more important than her daughter, so, and she's willing to, like, betray her in order to appease Madame Sullivan. Now, like, she is a very powerful wizard, so she could be threatening Sophie herself, but I think the way she says it, like, the whole take me back to my husband now, like, I think I did what I was told. Like, yeah. I think it has something to do with her husband. I don't think it has anything to do with Sophie. So I don't think it's either. I don't think it's a way to protect her. I think it's a selfish intention. Or she's so scared of her. Maybe though Sullivan threatened her, it has nothing to do with her husband, but her life is more important than her daughter's too, which is not really a normal parent-child dynamic. Usually the parents like, my child is the most important thing. So, well,
supposed to be. It's not normally like that. But
yeah, no, it doesn't really work like that all the time. But that's, anyway. So she's gone. We don't see her again. We never see her again, by the way. So she's not present in her life. And Markle actually comes out to her Sophie and is like, he hugs her and he's like, please don't leave us. I love you. And she's like, oh, I love you too. I won't go anywhere. And he's like, really? Yeah. So he says we're a family now, which is really heartwarming because I don't think Sophie ever really had that. I think she always kind of felt like the outcast in her family, whether that was before or after her dad passed away. Because in my head, she was close with her father.
After. I was going to say, to me, it seems like it's setting up like it's been like that after. Like her dad was probably really there for her when, I don't know if her mother was as absent as she is now when he was still around. I don't know like how really in love, quote unquote, they were. Like she was just around because he had like a hat shop that maybe was popular in town. But
yeah. So
and the sisters seem to be doing fine. At least the one we met, and I'm assuming the others are fine as well.
Yeah, Letty seems to care for her, but she's kind of doing her own thing, and she even says that, like, do something for yourself once in a while. So she's obviously doing that. Like, that's the life that she wants to live. But anyway, I think that's a really heartwarming moment for Sophie, that she's finally kind of found her family, and she's kind of accepted that this is where she lives now. This is going to be her forever home. So basically, I think they go back in, and it fast forwards to like nighttime, I think. And there's bombing going on. So she attempts to have Markle open a window because of the cigar that she's smoking. But she, the Witch of the Waste is like, I wouldn't do that if I were you, because there's, like, Sullivan's henchmen will get in. So basically, bombing's going on, and the henchmen are closing in on their location. So Sophie decides that they have to make a move. So her plan is to separate the actually we do see Howl again. He flies down in his bird form, and she is like, just stay with us, like, you don't need to fight anymore, like, let's just run. And he says, I'm done running, I finally found something I want to protect, it's you. So basically in that moment he's admitted that he's also fallen in love with her. So mutual love, yay. And also, we sound so happy about that, don't we? I am happy about it. I think it's great. But I don't know if you picked up on this, but this is also, her curse is broken at this point. She's officially broken it. She's young again. She will not go back to being elderly. So my question for you is, how do you think she broke her curse?
Well, I didn't know she broke her curse at that time, so I don't know if I have an answer for that. When did she break her curse?
So basically, like, after the bombing goes down and she's like, is that Howl? And she runs out and she's young again. She never goes back to being old. So at that point, we're to assume that she broke her curse.
This is a hard question. Like, I have an answer in my head, but, like, I can't decipher how I want to
at the end, because I have a theory as well, but I'm not sure I want to say it yet.
Keep going. I'll think about it.
Okay. So basically, we see her young again, and she stays young, but she does still have the silver hair. So he's like, then he says that line that I just said, that it's you that I want to protect, mutual love. And then jumps into action. Like, we have to separate ourselves from the hat shop or the flower shop now, because he's protecting it. He's like protecting them from the henchmen and the bombing. And she's like, we have to get out of here and just only be in the waste so that he doesn't need to stay in that one spot and protect us. So, she's decided that she's going to take Casper out of the castle, which he doesn't know what's going to happen, because I'm assuming that he's been there since the creation of the castle, and he doesn't know what'll happen with him outbeaten. He assumes it'll collapse, and that is what ends up happening. So she backs out of the castle with him. He's like, make sure I go out last, and the thing like completely falls apart
immediately.
Yeah. So, and I was watching this with my mom, and as they're trying to find their way back in, she's like, well, why did she even leave if she needed to find her way back in? And I'm like, it's because she needs to separate. She needs to get rid of the other locations. She needs to get rid of
the whole thing and just take like one separate part that doesn't like go off to the portals.
Yeah. So they can't get in through the flower shop. She just wants them to be out in the waste, because that's where they're the safest. So she goes back in, and she asks Calcifer to pick the castle back up and start moving. And he's like, are you crazy? Like, I can't do that. It's wet. It's all drippy and the wood is wet. And he's being a baby about it. But he basically asks her for a piece of her in order to gain some power. And she's like,
I missed this part like twice, and I had to rewind because I was like, wait, why is she crying again? So I rewind, and I didn't realize what you're about to say. I'll help you there. She gives her a part of her braid, because there's a part where she, like, I was doing something and I looked up and she's crying. She has short hair. I'm like, wait, what happened to her braid? So that's why I had to rewind it. But she gives it to him, and then he like gets the strength to pick the piece back up. And that's kind of where I thought she had some type of magic in her. Because like, would if it had been a normal person, would he have had that much strength?
I don't know. But I guess
it's not a lot of hair to burn that hot the way he did.
No, I think he said he's like, I need a something of yours, and she's like, what? And it can be like, it's basically a piece of your body, so your piece of DNA. And I don't know if that is just anybody's DNA, or if you have to be powerful enough. But like, he
I mean, if it was anyone, they could have used Markles.
Yeah, I guess. But
or the witch.
Yeah, I guess if he needed someone magical, then he would have done that. But I guess it doesn't matter. Just any DNA from anybody. But as he's lifting it, she says that it's amazing what he's doing again. And he's like, imagine what I could have done with your eyes or even your heart. So that's kind of when it's revealed that he has Howl's heart. And that's why he's so powerful. So I guess hair is like, he can do a lot with it, but like a major organ or something, or your heart. Like, I think they have, obviously this movie puts a lot of significance into the heart. So,
because that's also when the witch picked up that he had Howl's heart.
Yes. And she's like, I found it. I finally found it. And she grabs it and basically sets herself on fire because
it's Sophie's still trying to save this poor lady.
Yeah, right?
I would have been like, give it up.
Yeah, she's trying to save both of them, and she panics, and she ends up throwing water on both of them, which puts out...
she always threatened him to do.
Yep, right? So... And the witch, she's so selfish because she even goes like, you ruined my heart. It's like, it's not your heart, lady. Get over yourself.
Again, I know. I still don't understand why she's so obsessed with Howl. I guess his heart's just powerful, maybe, like your theory said, to make her young or whatever.
And I think maybe at this point she's hoping to get her power back. Or she's just holding on to this this goal that she's had forever. And she's just not willing to give it up yet. It's kind of like Zuko in the Avatar. I will find the Avatar and restore my honor.
Hey, but just like Zuko, she turns around and saves the day, okay?
Exactly. So she does have an arc where she becomes slightly better. So, but anyway, because she doused Howl with water,
you said Howl?
I meant Calcifer, sorry. So many names. So since
so many characters.
She doused Calcifer with water, he's basically down for the count. He's not out completely. You can still see his little blue flame, which doesn't really make sense because blue is supposed to be hotter than red.
I was going to say, yeah, blue is the hottest point of a fire. Blue and white, right?
Yeah. But anyway, whether it makes sense or not, he's down for the count, and he can't hold the ship together anymore. So they break apart. It's Markle.
Which this part I did not understand at all.
No.
And it still confuses me even though I watched it twice. Like when they break apart, they're lost, she's crying, and she says something, and then the ring... Keep going. You probably remember better than I am. You're the one with a good memory here.
So basically they get split apart. Markle, the Witch of the Waste, and Turniphead go one way, and Sophie and Heen, the little dog, go the other way. And she falls, and she's sitting in this rubble, and the tears are just coming out. She's like, I poured water on Calcifer. What if I killed Howl too? And she just starts like crying into her arms, and then so basically the ring starts to glow like a blue color, and he notices and tries to get her attention, and it's like basically the ring is pointing towards the front door. And she says that, oh, it's the front door. Now, it is a little bit confusing, and this is the theory that I was going to talk about earlier, that this is just a theory, so those of you who are better fans than me in the comments, don't come for me.
Well, comments, Macy, we keep begging people.
I know, right?
Keep going. Let me not.
But anyway, so the ring, and you probably, I'm sure you didn't notice this, but when they first meet, and he saves her from the soldiers, when he places his hand on her shoulder, his ring glints blue. You probably didn't notice that. That's a super,
I didn't.
That's, from me watching it a million times, I noticed it. And I think that the ring, rather than...
So the ring he gave her, is that his ring?
He's also wearing one.
So it's a separate ring. It's a different ring, but it's like the one he has.
Yes, I think the rings are intertwined, and it's supposed to connect them back to each other. So, it's like...
That's so lovey-dovey. Gross. Anyway. I mean, it's so adorable. They find each other's way back. I'm sorry.
Anyway, the ring points her in the direction of the door, and she basically travels back into time. And she sees Howl as a child, and it goes through the whole scene of how he was basically wishing upon shooting stars, and one falls into his hands. He makes a deal with who we now know as Calcifer. He used to be a falling star. He swallows him, spits him back out through the chest. I don't know how to describe it.
Pretty much that. There's no other better way to describe it.
And then Howl, or Calcifer, is then created in the little fire demon, and you see him in his hands, and the heart is beating inside of him. It's just depicted. You can see it.
So, like, is Calcifer basically a falling star or a fallen angel?
I think he's a demon. But he's just, his original life form was in the form of a falling star. And then he got turned into like a fire. But I think he's a demon, regardless.
He's always been a demon? Wasn't like a fallen angel turned demon?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. It would just make more sense because you don't usually hear about like demons like falling from the sky, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't really make... The only reason I think that way is because Madam Sullivan actually mentions that he made a deal with a demon. So,
okay.
If he had made a deal with an angel, that wouldn't really make sense.
Well, I just thought he was a fallen angel turned demon.
He could be, but...
And what deal did they make? And why did they make the deal? Questions I have.
Right? I think the deal has something to do with, basically Calcifer being... I think of him as kind of like a familiar, if that makes sense. You know how witches have, like, little familiars? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they help them, and they can... basically serve them. I think, because they show some of the other shooting stars, as soon as they hit water, they kind of die. So I think the deal for Calcifer was to give him a piece of him so he could manifest in the real world and not just, like, die. And then for Howl, he got this servant that could be used as a power source for him. I think that's
Aren't they turning into, like, if they hit the water, not die, but like these weird little...
The little,
like, how
little
do I explain it?
fairy-like creatures that Madame Sullivan puts around them, too. But it sinks into the water when it hits it. So I would assume they're dying.
Oh, okay.
That's what makes sense to me. I don't think they're going anywhere. They just, like, kind of float into the water, and Sophie even gasps at it like it's, like, drowning. So I think if I had to make a guess, I would say that Calcifer wanted to live and Howl wanted a servant, and that's how their deal was created. But I don't think Howl knew the significance of giving over his heart. So, but anyway, the ring starts to break, and she is being basically ejected from this past memory of his. But she shouts out to them, Howl, Calcifer, it's me, Sophie, find me in the future. So I think, this is my theory, I think that both Calcifer and Howl knew that they were going to encounter Sophie, which will in turn break both of their curses. So the ring glinting at the beginning when he first meets her is a sign of recognition of this being the person that he's destined to meet, and also why neither one of them are that concerned that this random Sophie person has appeared in their lives, because they think that it was always meant to be, and that she is the one that will ultimately save them from this curse.
Okay.
So my point is that she really did go back in time, and he remembers her.
Right.
So he doesn't really know why she's significant, but he knows that she plays a major part in their future.
It like, makes sense, and it does make sense. Like, do you think he recognized her? Like because I don't remember if they saw her or just heard her voice.
I don't think they necessarily recognized her, but they know the name Sophie.
Okay.
So, and she introduces herself as Sophie.
Because I couldn't remember if they, like, when they turned, when she was yelling, when she was falling or not, and if they saw her.
I think they may have seen her.
I thought there was a point where they, like, looked at, like, kind of like audience point of view, because it was Sophie technically falling, because then when it closes, we see them walk away, and then she's back in the present.
They saw her, but I think it's more about the name than anything, and also the ring glinting blue in when he first touched her, because she's wearing the ring. Does he say something
about that?
He doesn't say anything. It's literally just like a cinematography moment that I happen to notice. But I think the fact that because it's red when it's pointing towards Calcifer, but it's blue when it's pointing towards him, and it glints blue when he touches her. So I think there's some like recognition of the ring, knowing that she was the person wearing it in the past, if that makes sense.
It does.
So with the combination of the ring glowing blue and him at least knowing her name, if not knowing what she looks like, that's why he kind of knows her and is very comfortable with her and believes that she is the key to his fate, and he wants to protect her, and then he falls in love with her. So,
all that good stuff. The rest of it.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of my theory about why he basically takes her in, and he's not concerned about why she's there and how she's able to like enter his memories. I still don't fully understand that, how she's able to travel back in time.
I don't either. That's my one
thing. But
thing.
it's a magic world, so some things aren't to be explained.
The part that Calcifer took away from the main house, did it have the portal attached to it? Maybe?
It could have, yeah. It could have been like maybe the black hole door is a way to travel between space and time. Maybe that has something to do with it. And she needed to know how to break the curse. So it led her to the reason. And that's when she discovers that the heart his heart is in Calcifer, and she needs to return the heart to Howl in order to break the curse. So I think she was just desperate for a way to like figure it out, and she manifested that somehow. So
manifestation, y'all.
Yeah, if you believe it, you can do it. But anyway, so basically, the ring breaks. I think it's broken for good. I don't remember her wearing it again.
Did you say the ring breaks?
I probably did. The ring breaks.
We're having so much fun with the English language.
My tongue twisters today.
Oh my God. Mine was already the witch.
But the ring breaks, which I do not see her wearing again in the future. So I think it's broken for good. And that's why she can't, for whatever reason, she can't stay in the past. Like the ring showed her the past so that she knew, or I think it physically took her to the past, because I do think they obviously acknowledge that someone's yelling at them. So it's not just like she's seeing a flashback. She is there. So, she basically flies through this beautiful, like, sunset-y escape, and she's still crying at that point. But I think the reason she's crying is that she's sad that Howl lost his heart. Like, that's like a sad moment for her, that he's to think that he's heartless, which she doesn't believe, because they confirmed that they love each other. So how could he love her if he doesn't have a heart? This
is the Tin Man all over again.
Exactly. Which, by the way, your heart is an organ. It has no feeling. Your brain is what makes you love.
Oh my god, Macy, don't get scientifical on us.
I'm serious.
We're not here for that. We're here for witches and fantasy and magic.
Right.
If love comes from the heart, it comes from the heart.
But anyway,
don't do that to us.
Right. I'm sorry. Being too real.
Your little scientifical, logical brain had to just kick in there. Actually,
I know, right? I know. I sound like
I don't know. I don't know.
Push my glasses up and say, actually.
I don't know if that's like a Capricorn type trait or not.
Right. Oh yeah, Capricorns are known for being overly logical, which I would say suits me. But at the same time, I love the fantasy. I was just pointing it out.
You're right, though. It does come from the brain. I just thought that was funny.
Oh my gosh. Anyway. But once the ring breaks.
However, though, you need your heart to function.
Yes,
for your brain to meet.
Body.
Exactly. Yeah. So it does have its purpose. One without
the other. Which, by the way, that just brings up another fact. How is he alive?
Magic? He is a wizard.
Yeah, his heart's still pumping.
Yes, it's still technically alive because Calcifer, is still kind of keeping it alive. So
yeah, and it's not doing its function of pumping the blood through the body.
You know what? What were you just about to say?
This is a magical world. We're not questioning it. But anyway,
that's what happens when you question magic,
right? The next scene we see is basically she's just walking into the black void, which makes sense. It could be that portal, the black portal that she goes through. And when she goes back out the door, Howl is just standing there, devoid of emotion. He's got one giant bird leg, and he's in bad shape. So, this is when we see they kiss for the first time. How cute.
Why are we so bad? Why are we like this when it comes to, like,
I really don't mean it. It's just kind of awkward. I don't know.
And relationships.
Yeah. But anyway, they reunite. She's like, take me to Calcifer if you can. So she stands, the dog and her stand on his one remaining leg, which is kind of sad. And he flies to where the witch, Turnip Head, and Markle are still, like, walking on basically just one platform of wood and two giant metal legs. That's all Calcifer can, which, the fact that he can move that at all is kind of impressive, considering he had a bucket of water dumped on him.
Exactly.
So anyway, they reach back, and he collapses, and all the feathers go away, and he does turn back into his human form, so luckily he's not stuck like that. But he's out cold. And Markle's like, oh god, is he dead? And Sophie's like, no, he's fine. So she begs the Witch of the Waste for Howl's heart back, and the witch is like, well, I guess if you really want it, like, yes,
we do.
Get it back.
That was the whole point of this.
Right? Yeah,
let it go.
So she does reluctantly give it back. And Sophie tells her she has a big heart and gives her a kiss on the cheek, which I think is a little too much praise from Miss Witch of the Waste, because she's been awful.
It was kind of cute, though. It did tug at my heart a little.
Yes. So she takes Calcifer back, and he does rise back up and tell her that he's so weak. And she's basically like, I need to give Howl his heart back, but what's going to happen to you? And he's like, I don't know, but I think if you do it, it'll be okay. Which again
reiterates my theory of she has some type of magic in her.
I think you could be right. I hadn't really thought about that. But at the same time, my theory, like, it goes back to my theory of, like, he knows that she's important because she's in his memories. And she knows that she's the reason that the curse will be broken. So that's why he thinks it's okay. Or she's got some kind of magic.
if she was normal, whether she even went to the past or not, how would she be able to do this?
I don't know. So you're probably right. She probably does have some kind of magic power, which is why I want to read the book, because I'm fairly certain she does in the book.
I think she does.
But I didn't want to incorporate any details from the book because they say that it's really different. Like, they don't like to compare them because it's such a different timeline. So whether she has magic or not, we'll leave that up to you to decipher. But anyway, she's got enough power in order to do this, I guess. So she basically just wishes, which kind of makes sense because he used to be a shooting star, wishes that the heart can go back and everyone will be okay. And she puts the heart back on Howl's chest and kind of just pushes it in.
Just kind of just gonna sink in there. Yeah. There we go.
And how that Calcifer is free. He turns back into his little like shooting star form, and he's like, I'm free, and runs away, kind of like the genie. I'm free, and goes off into the distance.
The genie comes back though.
So does Calcifer though.
True. Did he come back? I actually didn't notice he came back, so that's why I said that. Okay.
But before that, Howl starts to wake up and he kind of coughs, and he mentions that his chest feels heavy, and that's when the line comes in. She says, a heart is a heavy burden. So that's the line that I want to get tattooed, because I think that has multiple meanings. But, so then he mentions that, like, her hair looks like starlight, and she jumps on him, and they are happy. They're having a little love fest over there, and the witch, I think, is funny because she covers Markle's eyes, like, oh, look at that. But then, basically, the fact that Calcifer just flew off into the sky means that the platform that they're on is no longer working, so they start to slide down the hill. And in comes our favorite character, Turniphead, to save the day. Once again, he stops the platform from going down the hill and breaks his pole, which is really sad, and she gives him a kiss on the cheek as well. But then that transforms him
into the missing prince. So again, my theory that she has magic.
Well,
how did he break his curse, though? I don't know how he broke his curse.
They talk about it. So he says that basically he's kind of talking to the Witch of the Waves, because Sophie and Howl are doing their own thing. They're having a little love fest again.
They found out they're in love, so like now it's kind of like they don't know anyone else is there.
Yeah. So basically he's talking to the Witch of the Waves, and she's like, oh, I know this curse. The way to break it is true love's kiss. So he fell in love with Sophie.
I forgot about that.
And when she gave him a kiss, it broke the curse because he's in love with her as well. So Sophie's getting all the men.
So Sophie.
Right. But the witch, she's like, it looks like your beloved is in love with someone else. And he's like, I do see that, but once I go home, and she's like, you should tell your king to call off this idiotic war. And he's like, I think I will definitely do that. And once I'm done with that, I'll come back, because if anything, hearts can change. So he's still got hope that he can get Sophie, which I think is, I'm sorry, Mr. Prince, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't
These two
think
have been
so
through
either.
too much together.
I forgot that whole scene happened, but yes, you are right. And that's why I said, like, I think the reason they went to that's why I thought the reason the war started was because of the prince, because when she told him, like, tell your king to call off this idiotic war.
Yeah, so if he has the power to call it off, he must have something to do with it. So, and then also we get a flashback to, not a flashback, Heen basically reconnects like communication with Madame Sullivan and shows that they're all like happy, and the prince is, I guess he must have like some kind of like pogo stick ability, because he like hops off on that stick that he's been using. As a travel device.
Prince like a wizard as well? I don't know. It was kind of funny though.
Probably. Who knows? So Madame Sullivan, that was another question I had for you. It's like, what do you think her motivations are? Because she also is just really quick to be like, let's stop the war. This is getting boring. The game's over. Like, was this just a game to you? Like, people dying was a game?
I guess.
I don't really understand her.
I didn't understand her character.
And I think she gives me the creeps. Like I said, with the whole cloning thing and the basically sacrificing all these wizards to become monsters for the king, and then all of a sudden she's like, I don't really feel like doing this anymore. I'm like, what was your point?
Maybe she's just an old wizard who's bored and has too much power, which is very scary.
Exactly. So I guess also you could look at it as like, maybe she's satisfied that her prized student finally got his heart back. Like, that was kind of her goal.
Like, did he not have his heart when he was an apprentice for her? Or did he lose his heart when he was an apprentice for her? That's a lot of, like, not knowing the backstory, so you kind of can't, like... Was she doing... was she doing this for Howl in a way, so they can all help each other? Because she couldn't really break it. Like, it had to be something they had to do.
I don't know how turning him into a monster to fight for the king would help him, but maybe it's like, well, if I can't have you, nobody can kind of thing, so I'm going to force you into... I don't know. I don't really get
weird.
it. Yeah, she's kind of a mystery character to me. I don't think I like her. Like, she's kind of an interesting character, but I don't understand her motivation. So
yeah, and like I couldn't tell if it was just one of those characters like that's kind of put in the story as far as movie wise to kind of just help it go along. Like, was she really necessary?
She seemed important to me on some level though, because she seemed to know Howl as a child, and she seemed to be, you know how like sometimes it's kind of like the king in Avatar. He's kind of a puppet, and then the real person directing it is the Dali. She seems like the puppet master behind the king, because he kind of seems like a silly, goofy guy, and she seems like the more logical one, even though it's not logical. So that was kind of what I was thinking initially, was like maybe she's the driving force behind the war. But who knows? She's kind of a mystery character. I don't really understand her story arc. Apparently she gets better, but at the same time, she calls the war a game, which makes me not like her because people died. So, lots of people died, I think. So anyway, but basically that's kind of the end. The prince goes off. Madame Sullivan decides to call it off. They both call it off. The war's over. And we get this beautiful shot of the new and improved castle in the sky. It's now flying. And the witch and Markle and Keen are playing out on the little garden area. And we get the final ending scene of Howl and Sophie flying into the distance and sharing a kiss. And that's where it ends. So... Final thoughts?
It was good. Thanks for your breakdown, Macy. It was a lot.
Oh god, I feel like I've been talking for ages.
I can't believe you did all that from memory.
Right? It's pretty impressive. It's because I've literally seen it so many times.
So many times. I feel like I can't even do that.
Some things, but
you hit the main plots.
I hit the main things. Probably too much, but
it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, so back to before we give our final thoughts on, like, I want to know your rating overall, but do you have a better idea of how you think she broke her curse yet? Because I'll tell you my theory.
I mean, I think it's still going to go back to magic. Because I still don't understand the initial point of the curse and why it turned her into an old lady. And what her being old has to do with her confidence. I mean, I see it in a way like... I see how it has to do with her confidence as far as, like, the beauty aspect. No, I don't know. I just feel like I'm still confused.
So, I've done a little bit of reading on people's theories, but I've kind of, like, picked and choose what I think to, like, kind of create my own. So one of the most popular theories is that it's completely based around her confidence, which I do agree with. I think the reason that she turned old is because she kind of felt like her life was already over. So which is shown because she kind of already was acting like an old lady. Like, all she did was just, like, sit at her windowsill and just made hats. Like, she never went anywhere. She didn't really talk to anyone besides her sisters. So I kind of see that, like, her confidence manifesting into that old lady, into the curse. Right. So, like, basically the curse is meant to portray the outside on how the inside feels. So her level of confidence, the fact that she thinks her life is over, she's destined to do this life forever, she has no aspirations. I think that is depicted in the fact that she's turned old. And then as she gains confidence and self-love throughout the movie, she starts to slowly switch back and forth. And then once basically the thing that breaks her curse is putting her foot down and deciding to do something for herself. So she's decided that she wants to save Howl, that this is the love of her life, that this is her family. She wants to save her family. So it's a little bit of self-love. I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this for my family. And I'm doing this for romantic love. I'm putting my foot down. I'm sick of this. I'm taking control of my life. And that's what breaks the curse. She's finally achieved that level of confidence that she needs. However, the silver hair remains because nobody is 100% confident in themselves. No one loves themselves 100%. You always have a little bit of self-doubt. So the silver hair represents the reminder of this thing that she went through. I think growing old also forces her to mature in a way. She kind of like didn't have any goals for herself, and she didn't feel like she could do anything for herself. So she went from kind of being cowardly and not stepping up for herself to this, like, Miyazaki actually, he wanted to show the beauty of turning old because it brings maturity, and elderly women, it seems like just like cleaning and cooking, but it's showing kindness and compassion for those around them. So I think she keeps the silver hair as a reminder of the maturity that she's gained, and also that 1%, like, nobody's fully confident. So, like, yes, she broke her curse. She's not going to turn old anymore, but she keeps the silver hair as a reminder of the little bit of self-doubt that she probably always will live with, that she combats. So that's basically a breakdown of what I think.
Wow, Macy, that was beautiful. I was moved. I was like, my theory, if I had one, would not have been better than that.
So yeah, like I said, I watch it a lot of times. I have read other people's theories. Some people like just think that some people think it's true love that broke the curse, but I don't really think that.
I think it's more than that.
Yeah, I think it fluctuates so much with her emotions that I think it completely has to do with her. And like I said, putting her foot down finally and deciding that this is what she wants to do with her life is what actually broke it. So, and that in that moment, she was determined to protect everyone and Howl, and that's when she decides to get everybody out of there. So that decision and that like move that she's made, it's like the first move that she makes on her own without anyone else deciding anything for her, is what breaks her curse, and she's gained the confidence and self-love that she needs. Ta-da!
That was beautiful. No.
So and also Howl, like, to round out his story too, I think Casper even mentions it because she says it's fluttering so fast, the heart, when she's holding it. And he mentions that it's still the heart of a child. So he also, I think the whole story is really a growth of maturity. And he, like he says, found something he wanted to protect. So he went from being kind of a playboy, misunderstood character to finding someone he really cares about and wanting to no longer be a coward and maturing into the person he is in order to protect his love and his family as well. So I think both of them have a kind of growing up sense of maturity about them that completes their story arc. So, right. And also true love's thrown in there as well. But I do really think it's more about confidence. That's what I got from this story rather than true love. I got self-love and confidence. So as like the themes that you're supposed to learn about.
Yeah.
So.
I can't compete with that as far as theory, so that's why I'm kind of quiet. Right. I'm like, I don't think I can say anything better than that. I almost kind of want to end it on that, so it's so beautiful.
Right. Okay, well, I guess to end it, I do want to know how you liked it and like what you would give it as a rating, I guess. I don't know. You said you guys had a rating system before. I guess you'll have to explain it to me so I can rate it as well.
I mean, if we, in like going forward, I can't talk. When we just do like movies or TV shows, we'll just rate it like out of 10. So 10 being the best, 1 being, the worst. This one was really good. I enjoyed it. I wish I wasn't so tired to appreciate it more, but I did really like it. Probably not on your level.
Yeah, I think it's grown on me. I don't remember always being so obsessed with it, but it is my favorite movie. And obviously, there are some...
I can see why, though. Yeah.
There are some plot holes, so I would probably give it a 9, because I think they could have explained some things a little bit better. But overall, I love the animation, I love the message, I love the story, and the music, too, I think is really beautiful. So it's overall my favorite movie, and nothing's perfect, so I would give it a 9 out of 10, because, of the things that were questioned, like, it's not super clear. But I think it's good that it's not super clear, because it's such a good opportunity to, like, let your mind, like, wander and think of these kind of theories, which I like movies like that. I don't want everything to be handed to me. I want to think about it. So
I don't want everything canon to be either, but there's some things where I feel like still needs to be explained where you can further your theories. And I do feel like it was more plot holes, whether you make up the theories or not, that were still missing for me. So for that, I'll just give it an 8 out of 10. I mean, I had to watch it again, so I understood it fully. I could have just watched it once and just questioned everything. So for me to watch it twice in the same day.
That's why I don't give it a perfect score, because I do think the amount of times that I watched it has helped me come up with these theories. I did not get all this on the first watch.
Right.
So for sure. So that's why it's you really have to pay attention and you really have to think about it. And I think, you know, potentially reading the book could also help fill some of those holes. But again, I don't want to compare them because I think they're too different. So he was just kind of inspired by the book to write this story, but I don't know how
close
accurate
it
is.
was.
Yeah, I'd have to read it to really know. But
let me know when you do read it. I would like to know as well, because again,
yeah, I'll definitely read it. Maybe I'll read it in time to give an update on one of our future episodes. Maybe when we do like a recap, I can have it read by then.
That's fine. But yeah, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. So
Yay.
Still a cute movie. I'd still
Overall,
recommend people
pretty
watch it. Yes, and of course, the animation is very beautiful for, again, a movie made back in 2004. So
yeah, it's beautiful. I have the soundtrack as well, and if you ever want a really chill listening experience, I definitely recommend it.
drop your homework or something.
Yeah, or if you're doing something where you don't really want talking to distract you, or like lyrics to distract you, it's really pretty soundtrack.
Okay. Well, anything else we want to say about Howl's Moving Castle before we go?
No, I think I got all my thoughts out. I'm certainly tired of
can't
talking.
go up. Yeah, I really can't match what your ending thoughts were. So that's why I'm like, I really don't know what else to say.
Right. Well, I guess as an ending fact, do you agree with my theory, or would you change some things?
Once you said that, I agree with your theory, and I agree with that's probably how the curse went, because I didn't think it was 100% true love at all. My one main plot of the curse I thought was of her confidence. I just didn't know the level of her confidence and like the different layers of how it played into it. That's why I was confused on how she broke it and how it played a factor.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely confusing. And once again, that's only a theory. So they don't really...
Exactly.
It's kind of a movie with... There's not a lot of talking in this movie. They don't really go into depth with a lot of things. So it's kind of up to your own perception and your own imagination what you take from it. So that is just a theory, but I think it's a pretty common one. And I think it's a reasonable theory. I think it makes sense. So,
yeah, exactly.
And it's also pretty and nice and makes me feel good about myself. So yay.
Well, that's good. I can see you in a little bit of Sophia. It might be another reason why you like it so much.
Yeah, I will before I die. I want to cosplay her. So, and it would be really cool if I had a companion that would cosplay Howl, but we'll see.
I'm not playing the Witch of the Waste.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody wants to play her.
Trying to think of a cute friend one I could be.
You could maybe do a cool human interpretation of Calcifer. That would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. Those colors would look good on me, so
right? The
can't
red
complain on
and
that.
The yellow.
And the orange. And I usually don't like orange and yellow, but as I've gotten older, I've started to like it a little bit more. Definitely one of those colors I need to incorporate into my wardrobe, but that's no time for that.
Right.
Anyway, but yes. So that was very good, Macy. Thank you. Thank you for bringing this movie up to me, because like I said, I've never watched it before. So this was a true breakdown of a movie review. Yeah, I think the first one, I don't remember it much, but we talked about the movie, but then we mostly focused on characters on that one. But this one does seem more of a movie where you focus on the whole thing, not just like individual characters.
Yeah, like obviously, I mean, Sophie is the main character, but I think it's more than just her. Like, it's really more about like the message. So I felt like it would be weird to just talk about individual characters because it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. And it's hard to talk about like, well, I mean, we could go on forever. This episode's already long enough with like all the theories of like about the heart and like being kind that I think it plays into, cause especially like with the Witch of the Waste and like her character development and like Sophie still being so kind to her after cursing her and everything she's done. So
right, and Miyazaki actually says that one of his major themes was compassion that he wanted to portray, and I think he does it pretty well. I think it does
I think so too.
Portray compassion really well. But anyway, obviously we said it in the beginning, but lots of spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, sorry, but you should go watch it. Anyway, because even if you don't understand it, I mean, I obviously spoiled everything, but it's still a beautiful movie and you can watch it knowing what's going to happen.
Exactly. So go watch it if you haven't already. I would assume most people, because it's been around for a while, so I'm assuming if you've listened to it, yeah, you're a fan of it. I know it's still, I think, to this day, still pretty popular.
Yes.
So, but yeah, let us know your theories, guys, in the comments, or email us at iwasthinkingpod@gmail.com. Let us know. We can even maybe one day read them out and compare theories. See if you're close to Macy, have the same theories as Macy, or something completely different. But you can listen to this everywhere you listen to podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe to us. Subscribbles, all that good stuff. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at iwasthinkingpod. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.